Because if you're sabotaging yourself and then the partner is sabotaging you as well, you have to make room for a positive voice, for some fresh air, for some space to breathe. Hi everybody, my name is Nikki, and today I'm responding to Russell Brand's video, How I Stop Self-Sabotaging. So lately I've been on a self-reflective journey, trying to figure out why I have a pattern of getting involved in abusive relationships. And I saw this video and I want to actually use it to help me on my brand. Starts off by talking about self-sabotaging, and we do it because we have an innate belief in ourselves that we are not good.
How are you going to stop self-sabotaging? How are we going to stop self-sabotaging ourselves together? We've got to stop this self-sabotage. What causes self-sabotage? I suppose it must be a latent, unexpressed, unexamined, unrealized belief that you're not good enough and that you're not worthy of success, whether that's in the field of relationship, education, personal development, profession.
So I think the first question I think that is pertinent or important is, do I self-sabotage, or do we self-sabotage, and how do we do that? Ultimately, I can say yes, I do self-sabotage. I don't do it on purpose or consciously. I think it's subconscious, but just the fact that I get involved with abusive relationships, like this is, I will say, my third one consecutively, like one right after the other. That has to be a form of self-sabotage, right? And do I believe that I'm not good enough? Yes, ultimately, but not across the board. I think if I'm completely honest with myself, I always think that there's somebody better, but then that's just fact in life, right? There's always going to be somebody better. If I go deeper than that and I say, I guess I have an innate fear that being in a relationship, that the person would leave me for somebody better. So if I'm focusing on unhealthy relationships, that is usually what I think. When I get involved with somebody, or let's just say that I have a crush on somebody, I just think somebody's cute, like I won't get involved or I won't pursue, because in the back of my mind, I'm always thinking, why would that person choose me? When there's like so many women in the world and the person can ultimately do better than me, I guess. So in order for me to stop self-sabotaging, Russell is saying that, or the reason why we self-sabotage, he is saying, is because we don't think that we're good enough. I mean, there's some things I think I'm great at, but ultimately, I guess I don't think I'm good enough.
I think what brings it about in me is a lack of trust in people and a lack of belief in myself.
Okay, so if I were to think about where it started, where my belief in myself that I'm not good enough started, I think my dad was rough on me and my brother. I do. And it would seem like no matter what I did, it wasn't quite good enough. I carried that into my adult life. So no matter what I do, even if I do really well at something, I think, well, I could have done better, or I should have done this, or I should have done that, instead of just giving myself permission to be happy in that moment for whatever accomplishment that I accomplished. Like, I don't pause and say, good job often. I more often say, I should have did something else, or this was good, but. So I guess that's a form of self-sabotaging. Also, he talks about programming.
that I'm an ardent supporter and evangelist for the 12-step technique of self-awakening is that it's a program for living. People say, I don't want a program, but we already have a program. If you're experiencing a lot of self-sabotage, that will be coming from your embedded programming, the programming of your family, the programming of your class and gender and sex and race and or economic background. All of this programming realizes itself through us. Now, let's say if you self-sabotage in a relationship, that could be through being unfaithful or criticizing, or it could be from like getting too clingy too quickly, all of that kind of stuff. I would say in the area of relationship, it's about projection and attachment to an external, in this case, person, instead of a kind of remedying of the inner malady. What I mean.
And this I talked about in another video. I know for a fact that from my own personal experience, I can't say for a fact, but from my own personal experience, my partners have intentionally tried to reprogram my own thinking. So even if I felt like I was confident, then that confidence needed to be brought down a couple of notches in from their perspective, because you cannot control something that is confident. You cannot control something that is self-aware. So the reprogramming that abusers do toward their victim is very constant and consistent. I don't know if abusers are very cognitively aware of what they are doing, but because it almost seems like it's innate, I don't really think that they stop and think, well, she exhibited some confidence there, or that sounds like that might go well for her, so I need to make sure that she doesn't believe that she can accomplish those things. That's reprogramming from my personal experience, from what Russell Brand is saying. So how do you stop that reprogramming once it begins? Or how do you even acknowledge it? I guess the first step is to acknowledge that this person is trying to reprogram the way I think about myself, because ultimately it's very challenging for us to stop self-sabotaging if our partner or the people that we're around is busy trying to program your mind to think negatively. So my mom told me the story once about a friend of hers. It was a male friend of hers, and they were talking about this woman. I guess this woman was attractive, or the male friend liked her. And I guess my mom asked him why he didn't go for her if he liked her. And he basically told my mom that the woman was too attractive and too strong and too confident for him to go for her. He told her he would have to break her down too much in order for him to date her. And this was shocking to my mom, and when she told me, it was shocking to me. However, now that I'm thinking about it, someone told me that not too long ago, maybe a couple of years ago, they said, I told him something like, well, I would never do that. You can never get me to do whatever it was that he wanted me to do. And he said, if I break you down enough, you'll do it. Not only is Russell saying that the abuser is self-sabotaging, but then I'm saying that the victim is self-sabotaging. I say the victim, when you're in an abusive relationship, is self-sabotaging because you are in an unhealthy relationship that is consistently breaking down your self-esteem. But then Russell is saying that the abuser is self-sabotaging as well because the person doesn't like themselves. So it is a coexistence of two people who don't like themselves, who continue to sabotage one another. So the victim doesn't sabotage the abuser, but the abuser definitely is sabotaging himself as well as the victim. And then the victim is self-sabotaging themselves as well. So how can it be that a victim finds the strength to not only stop the negative voices in their own head, but then to gain enough strength to get away from the compound situation of being sabotaged. I love the part when he says, let's see if we can let go of it.
Like how I experience my own mediocrity is like, say if I'm about to be critical or overly dependent on my wife, I sort of feel it rise up. I think this is part of your mediocrity to do this. See if you can let go of it. Or if I'm, that's where I suppose I have problems being critical and blaming. That's an area where I venture towards self-sabotage.
When I make mistakes and I find that I keep making the same mistakes over and over again, I'm really hard on myself. And then I get down on myself, then I get depressed, and then I get sad. But from this perspective, he's saying, let's see if we can let go of it. So it's a much kinder approach that I would like to take with myself, trying to be more kind with myself instead of pointing at the mistakes that I make and then ridiculing myself because of those mistakes. And then I never seem to come up for air. Right? So I love it when he says, let's see if we can let go of it. I love that kinder approach. The part about the part in the video that I really don't understand is when he says there's a part of you or inner voice that's not being heard.
Don't see the self-sabotage as a negative thing. See it as an inner voice waiting to be heard. There is wisdom in this information.
I have no idea what that voice is. I have no idea what's not being heard inside of me. I do a lot of self-reflection. A lot. I do a lot of journaling. I do a lot of writing. I do a lot of thinking, and I have no idea what he means by there's a voice within me that is not being heard. Okay, the last point that I want to talk about is find mentors, or at least positive people to be around. So in the perspective of abusive relationships, even if your partner is abusive and you find it hard to get away, try to surround, no, you don't even have to surround yourself. Just try to find one person that's positive. And I guess I'm obviously talking to myself too. Find one person that is positive. Because if you're sabotaging yourself and then the partner is sabotaging you as well, you have to make room for a positive voice, for some fresh air, for some space to breathe.